Hey everybody, this is Dream, and today we've got a nice 7-game NBA slate. We also have a 3-game college basketball slate. I will get to college basketball at the end of the video. It's not going to be a full breakdown because honestly that slate is awful, but I'll do give you my tips on that one for the record. So let's go ahead and get into this NBA slate here. We have a pretty good injury report today, so we're going to have some opportunity to find some value as the day progresses if we get some guys ruled out. So for the Mavs, Kyrie Irving is questionable and Powell is out. For the Hawks, Young is questionable, Capella is questionable, and Hunter is out. For the Suns, Gordon is questionable and Bol is out. For the Pacers, Halliburton remains out. For the Rockets, Tate is questionable and Eason is out. For the Hornets, Williams, Hayward, and Lowry are out. For the Clippers, Zubac is out. For the Raptors, Quickly and Podol is out. For the Cavaliers, Mobley, Garland, and Thompson are out. For the Magic, Harris is out. And for the Grizzlies, Aldama is questionable, and Morant, Bain, Smart, and Rose are out. So that definitely gives us some opportunity. However, there's some risk and reward in some guys, and I felt like most of the players on this slate are overpriced, so I just want to keep that note. So I do have one core play in Sun Gun. Now, he's just been playing very well throughout the season, and he's had a lot of upside games lately. He's got a very favorable matchup here against Charlotte. His price has come up some, though, but he still have decent play it because he just needs 43 fantasy points, which he's done quite a few times lately. So I think he's a pretty relative, he's safe as you can get for a guy that's slightly overpriced for his recent production, but he's definitely capable on the slate. We're also going to look at Luka for Dallas. Now, he's been pretty consistent despite the fact that he's been kind of complaining about being beat up and stuff. So I think he's in a good spot here. He's got a favorable matchup with Atlanta, who likes to push the ball and run. I expect him to have a huge output, assuming he doesn't feel hurt or anything throughout the game. He's been scoring absolutely monster numbers with 30 points in 6 straight games, here, and he's also had some triple doubles in that stretch. I do like his potential here and has some nice upside as a result, though he is pricey. Looking at Scotty Barnes, he should get back into the swing of being a top tier option. As with Pascal Siakam gone now, he is the focal point, and quickly is out today, so he will get a little bit of a boost from that as well, from the usage perspective. I expect him to try to get close to a double double or even closer to a triple double. Obviously, he's probably not going to get 6 blocks again, but he's been playing pretty well the last few games. Even though he's had a low floor, he has a high ceiling, and that definitely gives him some utility here. It's really hard to make him a core play, but he definitely looks like a decent play on the slate, especially due to the matchup here. Looking at Donovan Mitchell for Cleveland, he's been playing very well. He's had a lot of big games lately. He's also had a couple floor games, but overall he has a high ceiling, and that's what we want on the slate. As there's not, but the problem with that is that there's not a ton of value. So pricing him in with other guys in his price range is going to be somewhat difficult today, unless some injury situations open it up. Looking at Brandon Miller is very interesting today. Now, he does face a somewhat difficult matchup, but he's had 4 straight games over 35 fantasy points. His usage has really popped up as a result of Rozier being traded. Uh, I do expect that somewhat to continue here, especially with the Hornets being awful. And this is not a terrible matchup for him to go for over 20 real points, though his price has also popped up as a result, but he only needs 31 to pay off. So I think he's capable of that, though. It's just a very small sample size, and he's been inconsistent throughout the season from that perspective. But he's definitely capable of a good game here. And with a lack of good value plays, he's somebody that you have to consider on the slate. Looking at Miles Bridges, he's also played pretty well the last few games, especially with his usage going up because of Rozier being gone. I do expect that to continue here. His price has also come up as a result, though, and so that does give him a little bit of a low floor considering his price. But he's still been over 40 fantasy points in several games in a row now, and that definitely gives him some utility. This Charlotte-Houston game should be decently high scoring, but not as high as some of the other games on the slate. But they don't really play defense, so that definitely gives them some opportunities. RJ Barrett here is also in play at $7,000. Now with Quickly out, his usage should go up a little bit. He's actually been pretty consistent the last week or so, and with Siakam gone, he also has a little bit more of a boost from that as well. Uh, Honestly, I like Toronto quite a bit today simply because they have a couple guys out. Though the matchup isn't perfect, he definitely has some utility on the slate. We do have 3 value plays to consider right now. One being Karis LeVert. Now he's been inconsistent and hasn't played a lot of games lately because he's been hurt. But if he does try to start, or if he does play today, which it looks like he will, he definitely has some good ceiling games over the last few weeks. He's definitely capable, though he has had some struggles against Milwaukee this season. Honestly, going against Giannis sometimes can be difficult for forwards, and he's a little bit undersized from that perspective. So while he definitely has some potential today, it's definitely risky. But with all the injuries to the Cavs, he definitely has some utility on the slate. But he definitely carries some high risk, high reward on this one. Looking at Bay for Atlanta, he definitely has some upside as he's playing pretty decent the last two games. Though he had a little bit of a stretch where he didn't play well, but it looks like he might be through that, and he has double potential sometimes. But his price is pretty fair for what he's been doing, and he's in an up tempo game with a high total, and he has some utility, especially with the fact that the Hawks have some guys that are questionable and out, so his minutes could actually go up a little bit as a result when we get closer to the slate. Looking at Wendell Carter Jr. for Orlando, he's also in play today. He's looks like he'll get to a full complement of minutes now. He's been playing pretty good the last few weeks. His price has also popped up as a result. But now that he's back full from injuries, he should be a good play on the slate. Though this is not the most awesome matchup, but he's actually been matchup proof. I typically avoid guys against Miami and Cleveland, and he did pretty good against both those teams. So look for him to have 30 fantasy point range in this one, and he's priced pretty fairly here. We do have a couple of notes when it comes to the injuries. If Kyrie was to be ruled out, Tim Hardaway Jr. would get a boost. If Young misses, DeJounte Murray would also get a boost. And if Capella is out, the forwards for the Hawks, and I'll just kind of look at them real quick here, would definitely get a boost, and that would be Bogdanovich, Johnson, Bay, Okongwu would be the guys that would get the most upside from that perspective. So obviously, if Young misses, Murray and Bogdanovich would also get a boost. But I think that Atlanta could be a stackable team today, assuming that we get some guys rolled out on this one. With that said, let's go ahead and get over to this in college basketball slate real quick. This slate is pretty rough. We have just three games, and they're one of them is super low scoring, and two of them are a little bit higher. They're all within a 3 point spread, so that definitely makes it a little bit easy when it comes to these games staying close, hopefully. Um, Honestly, the best game to stack is is the Stanford California game. I do like California a little bit better because I felt like their price better and that their players are probably a little bit just better overall. I think Tyson and Amik are the two best players on the slate. Kennedy is a decent value slate, though he definitely carries some risk today. As for the defense and offense of these games, I'm just going to go through them real quick here. So for the Stanford California game, this game does feature a pretty high total, 150, considering these two teams are both pretty low in pace, but both of them are also pretty terrible offensively and just barely decent on defense. But I suspect this game will stay close and probably be a pretty good total. And so I do think California is probably one of the safer teams to stack. I felt like Stanford, from their perspective, while they do have some guys that have some potential, they're a little bit pricey compared to Stanford's players. Despite Stanford's players being higher priced, I felt like California has a very tight rotation where Stanford definitely goes deeper in their bench. They also have some questionable tags on their team, which definitely would muck some things up if everybody's back. But I do think that game definitely has some good upside. Looking at the St. Bonaventure St. Joseph game, this game doesn't have much of a lower total than the Stanford game does, and it does have that tight spread as well. Now St. Joe's is a pretty decent defensive team, but they have been pretty rough offensively, but they are a little bit better in pace. Whereas St. Bonaventure is a better offensive team and defensive team, but they go really slow. I do think St. Bonaventure probably pulls this game out, but it's definitely kind of a sluggish game here from the perspective of the offenses being kind of wacky. St. Bonaventure also goes a little bit deeper in their bench, and they also have some questionable tags that definitely could play in here. I didn't think that they were overpriced though, so they definitely have some potential. St. Joe's also has some guys that have some potential here, and they do have a pretty tight bench, but I felt like that they were a little bit overpriced though. Reynolds and Fleming both have some utility on. Not Fleming, I'm sorry. Sandrico both have some utility on the slate. Then we're going to look at the Wisconsin Michigan State game here. Now this game features the lowest total on the slate by a lot at just 134 points. Wisconsin is favored by 3 points. Both these teams are pretty average offensively and average defensively, with Wisconsin being a little bit better, and both slow it down quite a bit, but Wisconsin slows it down more. Big Ten matchups, not great for fantasy. This is a pretty avoidable group here, though Crow for Wisconsin and Hall for Michigan State have a little bit of utility. That's pretty avoidable from that perspective. Overall, this slate kind of sucks because there's not a ton of value. I mean, Kennedy is probably one of the best, cheapest plays that have some upside on this entire slate, which is a concern. So it's going to be hard to build really quality lineups here, but it's definitely, if you want to play, then I would definitely start with Stanford, Tyson, and Amik and kind of go from there. So with that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below, and have a nice day, guys.